Have you ever stumbled upon a video that left you feeling sad and disheartened?
Look at his fist. It's almost like he's trying not to punch her. He's looking at her right now, and he's got that fist right there. He's like, man, I would like to punch this bitch. Let's hope he doesn't put his hands near her neck.
A video that seemed to have no purpose other than to bash someone? Of course you have.
Shannon's got her horror makeup on. Nice double chin right there. One day, you may not be around for it. Can't believe it took 8 years.
I'm finna start a fight.
You know, we could advise her to add some burnt beads, but she doesn't take advice these days.
And maybe that someone is a murder victim, and they have friends and family that still love and miss them deeply.
Speaking of, she's gonna have to work. I know. I just kept looking at her like, how do I tell you that your best friend's gone?
I've watched many of the videos of Shanann and her family, and I only remember seeing a beautiful woman with a beautiful smile, beautiful daughters, and enviable energy. I guess different people see the world differently through each of their different lenses. Or maybe they just need the money.
It is so sad he was not able to wake up and get away from her.
This potato peeler, this is Meredith's 2 cents, aka... I did not say that. However, she is amongst the worst of the Shanann bashers.
Their home was being foreclosed, where the sheriff puts the lock on the door. But I wish he would have waited 4 weeks, because I would love to see her explain why she's left this big, beautiful effing house.
She's also obsessed with Shanann's boobs.
Put your fucking boobs away. Okay, boobs. Is her boobs covered up enough that I'm okay? My woman's boob. Put your boobs away. His woman's boobs. My boobs. Go put your boob in the machine.
She even bought Thrive patches. I'm not kidding. Obsessed. People like her, they saw Shanann's Facebook videos and they decided she was a narcissist instead of a salesperson.
Because she's a narcissist.
And the little girls aren't even safe. I watched a forever long video dedicated to Bella's hair. Seriously, I just sat there in stunned silence for 20 minutes or so. And they called her short hair cruel and abusive. When I was a little kid, I had thick curly hair, and it was cut short because besides myself, I had 2 other sisters that needed looking after, and so my hair was short until I was old enough to care for it by myself. And that is a beautiful angel face. She worked a short haircut. But don't think they stopped at the hair.
She's probably also learning my daddy is a hero. Chris has been the only stability in her life. He's the only person who didn't, have a bad day, and I couldn't get super excited or whatever the F she says. She couldn't speak properly. And it wasn't just a shy thing. I'm sure it's because of the way Mom treated her. Look at that. She's got her Sarah Boone brows pushed together. And she doesn't believe for a second her mother's actually going to force her to do something that she's told all of us, 9 times she does not want to do. I mean, here's Chris being father of the year.
Hit it, Bella.
As usual.
The really scary thing is that there is a market for this. There's a group of twisted individuals out there watching and loving and completely obsessed with nonstop hate towards a murdered pregnant woman that they've never met. After she and her babies were brutally murdered and just tossed aside like garbage, they're still at it. Now, money may be the main motivator, but a lot of this is just plain old misogyny. Women are criticized no matter what we do. If we stay home and raise the kids, or even if we work from home, we're lazy.
What does she have to do today?
If we have careers, then we're detached mothers, and we just want to get rid of our kids at the first available opportunity. And of course, we're terrible wives. And if we aren't hearing it enough from men, women are especially vicious to one another.
Her husband has done the laundry. Her husband has vacuumed the house. Obviously, her fingernails are done.
Women criticizing Shanann want to feel special. But when they say the shit that they say, they feel the same insecurity that Chris did. Shanann was so beautiful and so hardworking and so loved. These people get so caught up in their own feelings of inadequacy and straight up patheticness that they're able to empathize with this trash bag. Or they already do feel smart and special, so they call Shanann annoying, bossy, bipolar, narcissistic, demeaning, and my very favorite, emasculating, or some other catchphrase that they've heard from some other troglodyte on the internet, and they parrot that bullshit, and they say that poor Chris was just pushed to the edge. They think that Shanann got herself and her babies killed. It's how they convince themselves that something like that could never happen to them because they'd never be anything like Shanann. That's not how that works, sweetheart.
I'm only going to give Chris a little bit because I don't think I'm going to want to share this.
This woman has zero problem to express how much she has zero care about her husband.
She might be slurring her words. I'm sure he's fine, Meredith. More boobs?
See, my man would be upset if my boobs were out that way. I would not do that to my man.
That's very telling, Meredith. So now we know that you fall on the camp of, I'm a much better woman than Shanann, so my man will always love me. That's nice. But wouldn't you rather be able to free the nipple and still have your man love you? People like this are just so ate up. They are so void of compassion and empathy and self-awareness that they just open up their crusty mouths and say whatever is currently stomping through their brains, whether it's hurtful to other people or not. These creators have turned her life and memory into a circus for their own gain. And I wouldn't even call it creating.
So, a creator named Daily Wicked, she has just posted this compilation of Shanann Watts home videos. So I'm going to steal from her.
I think Meredith just gets all greased up.
I've taken a pain pill or have drunk any wine. I had a glass of wine this evening. And I had to take a Percocet.
Comments on the same videos.
What's up, babe?
I've covered this one.
What's up, babe?
I've covered this one.
What's up, babe?
I've covered this one. Shoot, maybe I've covered this entire one, but I've covered these videos.
Just for money, and not even that much money. You sold your soul for chump change.
My last video of Neek's Peaks, but I did receive a message saying I was not eligible to monetize it, so let's hope we have not made her mad.
Lugo Dice El Azar, near the Logan.
This is absolutely not a racist comment. Turn the brim on your hat, Chris. Real men don't wear their hats that way. If they're white. Do any of you other white women...
Oh my God, Becky.
Have your husband... Do they wear their hats with the flat beak like that? No, the black dudes do that. 2 or 3 years ago, I could say, oh, look, he's trying to be... I can't even say it now.
So,
wow. Torture your children. I almost guarantee they never change the filter in their refrigerator. I'm overwhelmed. This is making me sick. My goodness. I'm really seriously having a hard time not vomiting. I watched the first, 90 seconds, and I started getting angry already. I'm gonna go to bed in 10 minutes, and my heart will be beating. This is overwhelming to me. I'm angry.
If it upsets you too much, just stop.
Who've gotten her into the $80,000 a month Thrive Club because he has no access to banking. But this is embarrassing and unacceptable.
Looking at whether or not Shanann Watts may have had Munchausen by proxy. Be sure to watch.
She absolutely did. An extensive fake medical history. Look at her face right there. Eyes up to the right. So eyes up to the right. If you're right-handed, that means you're lying and you're making things up.
Refrain from the opiates and the alcohol, Meredith. That is not true. That is a myth, an urban legend, what have you. It just means that you are processing a thought or an emotion.
Man, how do I say this without being just a total asshole?
So she always talks about, poor Chris, poor Chris. He deserves to be treated better. Maybe by her.
Ronnie Watts makes a comment that shows he's so patient. He loves this child. It's all good. Ronnie, you're a strong man. Put her on your shoulders.
I think she wants to.
I can teach you.
Oh, yes.
All the Watts men.
These are, anyway, you know what I'm saying. Say what you want. I don't care what you want. Say what you want and understand other people may have different opinions. And it's okay.
Okay?
Monday she's a bitch, on Tuesday she's a bitch, and Wednesday to Saturday she's a bitch. Then on Sunday just to be different to the super king Kamehameha bitch. I really mean it, cause she's a big fat fucking bitch. Big old fat fucking bitch.
I was born in October of 1970.
Okay, so she's 2.5 years older than me. 2.5. I am terrified of what's going to happen to me in the next 2.5 years. Terrified.
I had a slight wreck in my mail truck on Saturday. And no, even though I was the woman driver. Okay, let's see how many other husbands. How many other husbands do we see in this? We have not seen one yet.
Women are allowed to go out on their own now, Meredith.
Okay, so far he's the only man.
But only one? I am starting to get worried.
Did just see one other man. Okay, I've seen one other man besides Chris.
Oh, thank God they're safe.
Chris, the man who keeps her nails done. You notice this is not a group of Victoria's Secret models.
Seriously, Meredith?
Why did not her father pick up the phone and say, Shannon, you cannot post stuff like this?
Probably because she's a grown woman. And stuff like what? A family trip to Denver? And it's all about money. They're just grifters. They found an easy way to sit on their asses and to make money by lying about and shaming murder victims.
I want to hurry up and get this posted. I've watched a few minutes of this. I don't know how trashy it is, but you know I can make it trashy.
Gross. What goes on in their heads?
Hey, water, ice, salt. Hey, water, ice, salt.
Hey.
That pizza look good as fuck.
And this next one fell for it. Hook, line, and big dumb sinker.
But there was Chris when she was at her worst and he still loved her. It sounds like Shanann was in a relationship in which she had power and control.
This one is a little different brand of bananas, but she does still say some fairly offensive things.
You could definitely say that she was domineering, controlling, and emotionally toxic. An abusive narcissist.
That was really gross. And some really dumb things.
I believe that Chris Watts did not intend to murder Shanann.
but I'm hoping there is still time to save herself.
Hey everyone, I'm Roxanne and welcome back to my channel. Now I'm going to discuss some views in this video that are potentially very unpopular.
Oh no, Roxanne, victim blaming is quite popular. You just spent like an hour doing it fairly easily. She's trying to warn us that we should leave if we're in a toxic relationship. Toxic. And she probably should have just left it there, because then she proceeds to bumblefuck her way through the whole video.
As much as Shanann was domineering and probably emotionally abusive, I wouldn't even say she would be considered emotionally abusive.
So confusing.
Maybe he felt that Bella and Celeste were witnesses to a murder and he couldn't afford for them to stay alive. Or maybe there was so much resentment he had towards Shanann, and the rage he had was then directed towards the girls as well.
Now this right here, this is the epitome of, now ladies, you don't want to push his buttons. And if you do push his buttons, well, you get what you get.
If you let resentment for your abuser build up long enough, you can either end up becoming a toxic person yourself,
I think it's great to try to encourage people to leave unhealthy relationships. I do as well. But there are 80 million better ways to do that than the Watts case. And I don't think that was her main intention anyway. I think she really just came here to bash Shanann.
This sounds like a controlling narcissist to me.
And also to throw out a bunch of diagnoses that I'm sure are incorrect. There is a lot of public information about this case. They released a 2,000-page discovery. Shanann herself put a lot of information online. Hours and hours of interviews, which I'm quite sure that you did not consume because some of your facts were wrong.
Here's another thing though. Before this incident, Chris had never shown any signs of aggression or violence.
Nathaniel said he had heard Christopher numerous times in the past yelling loudly at Shane.
I've read the discovery. Actually, Snoop Dogg read the discovery to me. I've watched all the interrogations. I've been to more subreddits that I care to admit without being really embarrassed. So the public information is there, but still, we don't know everything. Our brains could not process and remember everything. And listen, I was a presidential scholar and I'm still gonna have to check my notes. She watched a Netflix documentary.
And later on, we find out that Chris expresses to Shanann that he was not comfortable with the pregnancy, that Bella and Celeste were enough, and he was not ready for the stress of a third child.
Bitch, please.
Yeah, he said that after he started banging another chick. People that come online, they go on Reddit or YouTube or wherever, Facebook, and they say all these horrible things about someone they've never met and that they know nothing about, really. They make her out to be this raging lunatic from a documentary. I don't get it. Or maybe some other videos that they have consumed on YouTube or wherever, and they're given these ideas and unable to think for themselves that this woman didn't do anything crazy. She never screamed at anyone. She never yelled at anyone. And calling her an abusive narcissist or toxic, overbearing, or a bully when there's zero evidence except one dude who couldn't keep his shit together is ridiculous. And I have a lot of feelings about that. And Roxanne goes on about living your life on social media and putting your family on social media. And I agree. I never put my kid online, rarely. He's 12 years old, so I can ask him, but if he says no, I'm fine with that. If he's upset, I'm not going to film him or take pictures of him any way that would be embarrassing to him. Of course, I would not do that. Is it toxic? I don't know. Everything is toxic now. Cabbage is toxic. My dog is toxic. My sister's dog is definitely a toxic narcissist. I mean, look at her. He could have said no to the videos if he didn't want to do them, but there are plenty of them where he's walking into frame intentionally. He could always say no, and he never did. Just like this. Hey, you want to be in one of my videos?
Nope.
Easy. That easy. I didn't think it was a good idea to put the pregnancy announcement on Facebook Live. I would not have done that. But this was not an unplanned pregnancy. Chris was okay with this until, like I said, he started banging someone else. No one is trying to project sainthood or idealize Shanann. She's human. She makes mistakes. She would have learned and grown. I have yet to be sold on anything that Shanann had shown us of her life online that had been toxic or abusive or narcissistic.
Cindy Watts apparently brought some ice cream that the younger daughter Celeste is allergic to, and that ended up escalating into an argument where Cindy Watts basically ends up kicking Shanann out of their house.
If someone had brought food to my child and they knew that my child was allergic to that food, I'm gonna be upset. Anyone would be upset. Cindy Watts, though, because she's crazy, threw Shanann out of her house. What would the normal response be to Shanann getting upset? Wouldn't it be, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let me get rid of it. Throwing the child's mother out of the house is not logical or reasonable anywhere on earth. The mental gymnastics involved. It's embarrassing.
Shanann, who has a very strong and confrontational personality, let it get under her skin, and this resulted in an argument so intense it led Cindy Watts to kicking Shanann out of her house.
Cindy Watts had said that CeCe, who had not quite turned 3, was old enough to learn that she can't get everything she wants. That's true. That's a good lesson. But not to be taught this way. My God. Bella, CeCe, and Nico, they really do get thrown under the bus more than I'm comfortable with. Yeah, let the kid go into anaphylactic shock. Who cares? As long as the world thinks I'm nice. After Nutgate, Shanann begins to do some self-introspection immediately. And she admitted that she was wrong. I don't think she was wrong. I did think that Chris did need to grow a pair if he wasn't going to help me defend his children. But anyway, I doubt that this was the first time she's ever done that. True self-introspection is rare. You have to work at it and be mindful of it and practice. But lots of people can't admit when they're wrong. But I am still not hearing anything bad or toxic. When is it coming?
And don't underestimate the situation.
Well, I'm not.
This is really serious.
This is wild. I'm 100% serious about that. Everyone who knew her, aside from the loony Watts, loved her. How do you reconcile that in your brains?
And Shanann has a stronger personality. It even seems people are making excuses for how dominant she is.
She can be bossy. Yeah, but in a good way. I mean, it's not like I teased her because I'm like, you're so bossy, but she's trying to like push you to do good things and like motivate.
She completely misses the tone here because this is Nicole Atkinson talking and she's laughing while she's saying it. And to give a little context, Nicole was the one who showed up at Shanann's house that morning and reported Shanann missing. Shanann was such a bitch that she really cultivated some ride or die friendships that we should all strive for. And how did that happen if she's so awful? A woman named Addie, one of Shanann's many, many friends, texted her phone after Chris had been arrested. She said, I need you here. I want you to know that you were literally my right hand, and I can't do this without you. Jeez, what a bitch. And where are Chris's friends? Where are they? Mark in San Diego. He and Chris grew up together, so there's one. And in the interview with CBI, that friend could not name one other friend that Chris had. Not in North Carolina, not in Colorado, not one. Mark even said all of Chris's friends were Shanann's friends first.
Do you know who his friends are here in Colorado?
I do not.
Okay.
I've never met any of them.
Okay. How about any other friends of his that you know of that we could talk to?
Off the top of my head, I honestly don't know.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of the people he knew of Shanann had known.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I said that a lot of the people that Chris knew, Shanann knew. They were Shanann's friends.
And we all know neighbor Nate did not like him.
There's the blood and everything out there, all the tools that I had to bring in.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
This is the captain, Captain Obvious, and he has a message for you. He said, if a person in a marriage has always flown solo, that might be a bit worrying. Not having many long-term friendships is a big red flag. It basically means they have not been putting in the effort to grow and nurture relationships, which requires both sides to put in time and effort. People change over time, and being in a long-term friendship means accepting and adapting to those changes as they happen. If they haven't learned to do that in a friendship, it could be tough for them to handle it in a romantic relationship. Duh.
Another issue we see being brought up is Shanann, by her own admission, considers herself the dominant person in the relationship.
Chris and I think, have an amazing relationship. We get each other. I'm definitely the dominant one in the relationship. He's very sweet. He's very calm. I'm the high-strung one in the relationship.
Lee said that she herself came from a long line of Italian women and, quote, we're very strong, sassy, assertive, and that's how I pictured Shanann. Now listen, I know this vocabulary very well, and a lot of black women use this to describe themselves. They say, well, I'm sassy, I'm strong, I'm assertive. People, this is classic code word for someone who has an attitude.
No, you don't know the vocabulary. You are conflating all these different words that have very different meanings. Strong, dominant, domineering, overbearing, bullying, sassy. Being dominant or submissive is natural in all your relationships, friends, family, coworkers, and romantic relationships. And it can be fluid, it can change. You may be the dominant in your romantic relationships and less of a decision maker in your friendships or at work. It's called an asymmetrical relationship, and the dominant person has to make sure that they are not overly aggressive or abusive. And as I've said 1 million times, Shanann has never shown us to be aggressive or abusive. Most of our relationships are like this. It's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it just is.
They're domineering, maybe even overbearing, maybe even a bit of a bully. But this is a nice way of saying this. This is the PC way of saying that this person is a bit overbearing.
If it were true, you would know that you didn't need to sugarcoat or PC any of that. You don't have to be nice about any of it to a strong woman. She'll just hand you your ass and move on with her day. I'm going to tell you this as a strong person. You haven't had enough life experience. You haven't met enough people. There is nothing more beautiful than a strong woman. Maybe some of the people that you claim to know who claim to be strong, but they're just mean, they aren't strong. A strong person can be shy. A strong person can be quiet. A strong person can be introverted. Shanann was definitely strong and assertive. I just don't think you know what those words mean. There is an ocean of difference between having a strong personality and being a bully. No one who knew Shanann said she was a bully, but you did. You just spent an hour talking smack about a dead woman. How is that not a bully?
Now, on the one hand, women who tend to have this kind of personality tend to be movers and shakers. They may have an attitude issue.
Attitude issues.
But they're the type that can open up a hair salon and build a thriving business. They're great entrepreneurs, and that kind of no-nonsense attitude gets them far in life.
Assertive people often spend a good deal of their time speaking up for defending people who can't defend themselves. Assertive people are great advocates. Strong and assertive people are great leaders. They're good in a crisis. They're not going to be afraid. And I'm going to tell you that starting that beauty salon takes courage and strength. What it does not require is being a screeching harpy that you think it does. Actually, I have never heard of strength and bullying conflated before, ever. You're the first. Oh my God, how dumb of you. People with strong personalities really do their part, more than their part, to keep the world spinning on its axis. They don't like confrontation. They don't seek out confrontation, but they can handle confrontation. Strong people generally get tasked with a lot of the dirty work. They have to be the ones that fire people. They have to be the ones who will write an employee up. They have to be the ones that never get a break when times are tough because they've got to carry everyone else. And that's what was going on with Chris and Shanann. Yeah, he was weak, absolutely. And he wouldn't be able to live his life outside of prison without her.
But still, pair that with a passive and non-confrontational person, you can easily find yourself in a situation where one person is always getting their way and the other person is having to bury their feelings a lot. And when you're constantly burying your feelings for the sake of not being confrontational, that's where you can get a lot of built-up resentment.
And every bit of what you just said was a Chris issue, not a Shanann issue.
Chris mentions in an interrogation interview that he felt he just couldn't be himself around Shanann.
Oh, I don't know. I think he ended up showing his true colors. I wish you were smarter.
That you like walk on eggshells type thing. It's kind of like you feel like you're always doing something that's wrong.
Yeah, he should have been walking around on eggshells. He was sleeping with a coworker and his wife was back in town. And I do think I understand what she's trying to say. Chris is an emotionally inept man. And what is so disturbing about that is that they're everywhere. Most of them do not kill their families. He is under a lot of stress. I'll give him that. And we know what the stress is, or at least what a lot of it is. He's got a new baby on the way. Now, he did want that baby. He did. Like I said, until he started banging another chick. He's in debt up to his eyeballs. He's about to get sued. He's trying to hide his girlfriend from his wife, who is back in town. Very stressful. But because he cannot cope, never learned how to cope, probably because of his mother. I mean, let's be honest, Cindy Watts is nuts. She is insane. I would say that Chris Watts' own mother has a lot to do with him internalizing his feelings and just walking around like a pressure cooker that eventually blows. However, none of this was Shanann's fault. She was just a mom who was murdered by someone she loved, someone that did not deserve her. So in Roxanne's noble crusade to warn us about toxic relationships, this is what she says about women who kill their abusers.
You can end up dealing with your resentment in the wrong way and end up doing something equally abusive or even worse to your abuser. There are a lot of women in prison because they took revenge on their abusive intimate partners. And because of how the law is structured, you can really only do that kind of violence when you're in immediate danger. Meaning this person is literally in the act of physically attacking you or is about to strike you. Then you have a valid claim of self-defense.
Apparently she's never heard of Francine Hughes, who is a real person, by the way. But then gives Chris Watts a pass that if Chris Watts had just stopped at Shanann and had a good defense team, he might be out in 16 years.
If he had a good defense team, they might have been able to show that he was a victim of emotional abuse.
Everybody has their shit. It could be money problems, work problems, an extra girlfriend problem, but that doesn't mean you get to kill people and get a pass. This was a guy who had an affair, got all fucking wigged out, and killed his family. That's it. But he lost his shit in a big way. He's not a victim. He's not that deep. On top of all that misogyny of thinking it's no big deal to crawl on your pregnant wife and choke her to death, or stomp your daughters through an 8-inch opening into an oil tank. Stomp. But had he not done that, just left it off with Shanann, that still wouldn't be second-degree murder. But it's crazy how she uses the word revenge when she talks about women. That's nice. I love that. So anyway, cool reflection. You have to have time for cool reflection for a murder to be from second-degree murder to first-degree murder. That could be as short as a minute. When he crawled on top of her and began choking her, looking her in the eyes, believing she was praying, at any point he could have stopped. He didn't. It's first-degree murder, sweetheart. She also says that incels get bullied, and then they go nuts and kill a bunch of people. They're the bullies. I wonder how many times she said, "I'm not like other girls." Billions. I think a lot of personal fears actually are projected onto Shanann. When you claim Shanann was overbearing or bossy or a bully, you think to yourself, well, I don't have to worry. I'll never be a victim because I'll never do that. Or Shanann becomes symbolic of someone in your life. Maybe yourself, maybe your mother, maybe a boss, maybe an acquaintance, a cranky aunt. And you're working through some personal trauma by picking apart every eyebrow raise or every word that a murdered stranger says or does. And Chris Watts is a douchebag, but he is also a disturbing figure. Because no one saw this coming. And that's where I think victim blaming gets really dangerous. If you're so busy blaming yourself or someone else, you're going to miss the signs. And Chris Watts had to have left signs, but they were missed. Because Shanann did love him. She was the dominant one in the relationship. She was. She, in the beginning, determined whether or not they would end up together. And then she fell for him.
He only knew me at that time. He knew me at my worst. And he accepted me. And, you know, through your vows, like through sickness and everything, he's been there. He was the one that let me lay on him and fall asleep for 3.5 hours on his lap while he had to pee.
And then life got hard. But she was still in love with him.
He's the best thing that has ever happened to me.
She let her guard down. And no one will hurt you like the people that you've let your guard down with. She made mistakes. None of them should have been fatal. And she was not toxic. Calm down. And I watched your whole dumb video, and I never saw one thing toxic or abusive from Shanann. This is a well-worn tale. And just like always, some women are more than happy to run in and say, I'm not like that. That's not me. Pick me. Pick me. A friend of Shanann's had contacted me after I made a TikTok about that dried up raisin Meredith, and my stomach dropped. And I thought, I'll delete this. But as it turns out, she thanked me. And this last one is just bananas, just in case, you wanted to know what else was out there in the world and why I stay home as much as I do.
I think she gets stuck in the toilet. She gets stuck in the toilet.
She's stuck in the toilet?
Stuck in the toilet. Some choice words and a crazy look from Shanann. Did she shove her in the toilet? I think so.
Who raised you? On the 5-year mark, I had been thinking about Shanann and her daughters, so I went to YouTube and found these messes. But there were a lot more better videos.
Colorado makes me feel like it's drama-free life because Colorado is just amazing. Absolutely amazing, sorry. But that's how I feel. I feel at peace here in Colorado. And everyone wonders why we moved to Colorado because I do. I feel at peace here. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to describe it. I just feel, I feel at home, if that makes sense at all.
Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself. Look after others. Don't be a dick to people on the internet who can't fight you back. Because I care about what happens to you. Bye.